"Sir, this place is not meant for you. I don't care if you're a veteran or not, you need to leave now." The harsh words echoed through Walmart's busy checkout lanes as 82-year-old Frank Morrison stood frozen, his weathered hands gripping a basket containing basic groceries, bread, milk, and a small turkey for Thanksgiving dinner. The young cashier, Tyler Jenkins, barely 19 years old, glared at the elderly man with obvious disgust. Frank wore his faded navy cap and a simple jacket that had seen better days. His Social Security check hadn't arrived yet, and he was counting crumpled dollar bills and loose change to pay for his modest meal. Other customers began staring, some pulling out phones to record the scene. "Look, old man," Tyler continued loudly, "you're holding up my line with your pocket change. This isn't a charity. Maybe try the food bank down the street where people like you belong." Frank's face reddened with embarrassment. His hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from the humiliation of being treated like a burden. He had served his country for 30 years, survived 3 tours of duty, and earned medals he kept hidden in a small box at home. Now he was being told he didn't belong in a simple grocery store. I have the money," Frank whispered, his voice barely audible above the store's background noise. "Just need to count it properly." Tyler rolled his eyes dramatically. "Sir, you've been counting for 5 minutes. There are real customers waiting behind you who actually have money to spend." The line behind Frank grew longer. Some customers shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded in agreement with the cashier. An elderly woman behind Frank stepped forward, about to offer help, but Tyler held up his hand. "Ma'am, please don't enable this. He needs to learn to shop within his means." Frank's military training had taught him discipline and respect, but this moment tested every fiber of his being. He wanted to walk away with dignity, yet he desperately needed these groceries. His pride warred with his practical needs. As Frank continued counting his money with shaking hands, Tyler made an announcement that would change everything. "Security. We need assistance at Register 7. We have a situation with a customer who can't afford his items and is disrupting business." The security guard approaches, and Frank realizes this humiliation is about to become even more public. But what nobody knows, including Frank himself, is that someone in the store recognizes him, and this encounter is about to take an unexpected turn. The security guard, Marcus Williams, approached with reluctance written across his face. Unlike Tyler, Marcus had respect for elders, especially veterans. He could see Frank's navy cap and the small service pin on his jacket. "What seems to be the problem here?" Marcus asked diplomatically, though he already knew the situation was wrong. Tyler jumped in before Frank could speak. "This gentleman can't afford his groceries and he's been holding up the line for 10 minutes. I've asked him politely to step aside, but he won't listen." Frank finally looked up, his eyes meeting Marcus's understanding gaze. "I have the money, son. It's just mostly in coins and small bills. My Social Security got delayed, and this is what I have until it comes through." A crowd had gathered now. Some customers filmed with their phones, others whispered among themselves. A few shook their heads in disapproval, not at Frank, but at Tyler's treatment of the elderly veteran. Sarah Chen, a middle-aged teacher shopping with her teenage daughter, stepped closer. "Excuse me," she said to Tyler, "but there's no law against paying with coins. This gentleman has every right to shop here." Tyler's manager, Janet Rodriguez, finally noticed the commotion and approached. She had been dealing with inventory in the back office and was unaware of the situation developing at her store. "What's going on here?" Janet asked, surveying the scene with growing concern. "Nothing I can't handle," Tyler said confidently. "Just explaining store policy to a customer who doesn't understand how business works." Frank began placing his items back in the basket. "It's okay, I'll go somewhere else," he said quietly, his dignity intact despite the public humiliation. But Sarah Chen wasn't having it. "Sir, please don't leave. You've done nothing wrong." She turned to Janet. "Are you the manager? Because your cashier just told this Navy veteran that he doesn't belong in your store and called security on him for paying with legal currency." Janet's expression changed immediately. She recognized the seriousness of the situation, especially with multiple customers filming. This kind of incident could go viral and destroy the store's reputation. Meanwhile, in the crowd, a well-dressed man in his 50s had been watching intently. Robert Hayes, wearing an expensive suit and tie, stepped forward with a phone in his hand. He had been making a call, and his conversation was clearly urgent. "Excuse me," Robert said, approaching Frank directly. "Sir, did you serve in the Navy?" Frank nodded hesitantly. "Yes, sir. 30 years, retired as Master Chief Petty Officer." Robert's eyes widened with recognition, and he looked down at his phone screen, then back at Frank. What's your name, if you don't mind me asking? As Frank is about to answer, Robert's phone buzzes with an incoming call that makes his face go pale. The caller ID shows a name that will change everything about this encounter, and Robert realizes he's not just witnessing a random act of disrespect, he's found someone very important. Frank Morrison, the elderly veteran replied, straightening his shoulders with military bearing despite the humiliation he'd endured. Robert Hayes nearly dropped his phone. His hands trembled as he stared at Frank, then quickly scrolled through something on his screen. The caller ID showed Admiral Patricia Nelson, U.S. Navy. Master Chief Morrison, Robert said with sudden reverence, from the USS Enterprise? Frank looked surprised. Yes, how did you? You saved my brother's life in 1985. Lieutenant James Hayes, during the Persian Gulf incident. Robert's voice cracked with emotion. I've been looking for you for almost 20 years. The crowd fell silent. Even Tyler stopped his eye rolling and stared at the unfolding scene. Janet Rodriguez stepped closer, realizing something significant was happening. Mr. Hayes, you know this gentleman? Robert ignored Janet and focused entirely on Frank. My brother never stopped talking about you. How you pulled him from that burning engine room when everyone else had evacuated. How you stayed behind to make sure every single sailor made it out alive. Frank's weathered face softened. Jamie Hayes, little Jimmy from Texas. Is he? He's alive because of you, Robert said, tears forming in his eyes. He became a pilot, got married, has 3 kids. He named his oldest son Franklin, after you. The crowd was captivated now. Phones continued recording, but the mood had shifted completely. What started as a humiliation was becoming something entirely different. Tyler, however, remained unmoved. Look, this is all very touching, but he still needs to pay for his groceries or leave. I don't care what he did 40 years ago. The entire crowd turned to stare at Tyler in disbelief. Even his manager Janet looked horrified. Robert's phone rang again, Admiral Nelson calling back. He answered immediately. Admiral, I found him. Master Chief Frank Morrison is standing right here in a Walmart in Springfield, and you won't believe what just happened. Frank could hear a woman's voice on the other end, speaking rapidly and with authority. Robert looked at Frank with amazement. Sir, the Admiral wants to speak with you. She's been trying to locate you for months. There's something about a ceremony. Something about the Navy Cross recommendation that was lost in paperwork for 38 years. The Navy Cross, one of the highest military honors, second only to the Medal of Honor. Frank had never received recognition for that day in 1985 when he saved 17 sailors from a catastrophic engine room fire. Frank took the phone with trembling hands. This is Master Chief Morrison, retired. Master Chief, this is Admiral Nelson. Sir, we've been searching for you everywhere. Your heroic actions on the USS Enterprise were never properly recognized due to administrative errors. The President of the United States wants to personally award you the Navy Cross next month in Washington, D.C. The Walmart checkout area had become completely silent except for Admiral Nelson's voice, which Robert had put on speaker so everyone could hear. As Frank processes this life-changing news, Tyler makes one final, devastating comment that will seal his fate and trigger a response from corporate headquarters that nobody sees coming. As Frank held the phone, still processing the Admiral's words about the Navy Cross and presidential recognition, Tyler Jenkins made the mistake that would define his future. Whatever, Tyler said loudly, interrupting the call. I don't care if he's some war hero or whatever. Rules are rules, and bums don't get special treatment in my checkout line. Admiral or no admiral, he needs to pay or get out. The silence that followed was deafening. Admiral Nelson heard every word through the phone's speaker. Young man, Admiral Nelson's voice cut through the air like a steel blade. Did you just call a Navy Cross recipient a bum? Robert Hayes stepped closer to Tyler, his business demeanor shifting to something much more serious. Son, you just made the biggest mistake of your life on camera, in front of multiple witnesses, while talking to a U.S. Navy admiral. Frank, still holding the phone, looked at Tyler with disappointment rather than anger. Son, I've been called worse by better men than you. But I've also seen young men like you learn important lessons about respect and service. Janet Rodriguez finally found her voice. Tyler, you're fired. Effective immediately. Security, please escort him from the premises. But Tyler wasn't done. His arrogance had reached a point of no return. You can't fire me for doing my job. This old guy was holding up the line, and I handled it appropriately. I'm calling corporate to file a complaint about all of you. Sarah Chen, the teacher who had been defending Frank, stepped forward. Actually, Tyler, I've been recording this entire interaction. And so have about 15 other customers. This is going to be everywhere by tonight. Robert Hayes smiled grimly. Tyler, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Robert Hayes, Regional Director for Walmart Corporate. I was here conducting a surprise inspection when this happened. Tyler's face went white. The arrogance drained from his expression as the reality hit him. And Tyler, Robert continued, not only are you fired, but I'm personally ensuring that your behavior today becomes a training video for every Walmart employee in America about how not to treat customers, especially veterans. Admiral Nelson's voice came through the phone again. Master Chief Morrison, please stay exactly where you are. I'm sending a Navy escort to bring you to Washington, D.C. immediately. The president moved up the ceremony to this Friday after I explained the situation. Frank looked overwhelmed. Admiral, I appreciate this, but I can't afford. Sir, she interrupted, the United States Navy is covering all expenses. Hotel, transportation, meals, and a dress uniform that actually fits properly. It's the least we can do after 38 years of bureaucratic failure. The crowd erupted in spontaneous applause. Several people were crying, including Marcus the security guard, who snapped to attention and saluted Frank. But Tyler, in his final act of defiance, pulled out his own phone. I'm posting this on social media. You'll all see who's really in the wrong here when this goes viral. Tyler has no idea that his social media threat is about to backfire spectacularly, because someone else in the crowd has connections that will turn his intended attack into something that changes Frank's life forever, and ruins Tyler's reputation nationwide. As Tyler furiously typed on his phone, posting his version of events to social media, he failed to notice that Sarah Chen had already uploaded her complete video footage to TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook 30 minutes earlier. Her post read, Navy hero humiliated at Walmart by disrespectful cashier. This broke my heart, but watch what happens next. Hashtag veteran respect, hashtag Navy cross, hashtag everyday heroes. By the time Tyler hit post on his complaint, Sarah's video had already been shared 50,000 times. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of Frank, and absolutely devastating toward Tyler. Robert Hayes received a call on his corporate phone. Sir, this is Michelle Torres from Corporate Communications. We have a situation going viral right now involving one of our stores and a Navy veteran. Social media is exploding. I know, Robert said, I'm standing in the middle of it. The employee has been terminated, and we're implementing immediate changes. Meanwhile, Frank was still processing everything when a young woman approached him. Excuse me, sir? I'm Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News. We received multiple tips about this story. Would you be willing to do an interview? Before Frank could answer, his phone, an old flip phone, began ringing. His neighbor Mrs. Patterson was calling. Frank, are you okay? You're all over the internet. My granddaughter just called me from college saying there's a video of you at Walmart that has millions of views. Frank looked confused. Millions? Sarah Chen showed Frank her phone. The video had exploded across social media platforms. Celebrity veterans were sharing it, news outlets were picking it up, and hashtag Justice for Frank was trending nationally. Actor Tom Hanks had shared it with the caption, "This is why we honor our veterans every single day, not just on holidays." The Rock posted, "Master Chief Morrison, you're a real superhero. Thank you for your service, sir." Even more surprisingly, corporations were responding. Ford Motor Company commented, "Master Chief Morrison, we'd be honored to provide you with a new truck, no charge. Heroes deserve better." Hilton Hotels. "Sir, you have free accommodation at any Hilton property for life." The outpouring was unprecedented. Frank sat down heavily on a nearby bench, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Tyler, meanwhile, was discovering that his social media post had backfired catastrophically. Instead of gaining support, he was receiving thousands of angry messages. His personal information had been discovered, and his reputation was being destroyed in real time. His post had been screenshot and shared with captions like, "This is the face of disrespect," and "How not to treat America's heroes." Janet Rodriguez approached Frank with genuine concern. "Sir, I am so deeply sorry for what happened in our store. Walmart Corporate is sending a formal apology, and we want to make this right." Admiral Nelson called back, "Master Chief, the story has reached the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense wants to meet with you personally. And sir, there's something else. The USS Enterprise Association has established a scholarship fund in your name. It's already raised over $100,000 in donations from people who saw the video." Frank looked around at all the cameras, phones, and people trying to help him. "I just wanted to buy groceries for Thanksgiving dinner." Just as Frank thinks the day couldn't get more overwhelming, a black SUV with government plates pulls up outside the Walmart, and the person who steps out will reveal the final, most shocking twist of Frank's incredible day. The black SUV's door opened, and out stepped a woman in a crisp Navy uniform with Admiral's stars. Admiral Patricia Nelson had flown from Washington, D.C. personally to meet Frank Morrison. But she wasn't alone. The second person to emerge from the vehicle made everyone's jaw drop, including Frank's. It was James Hayes, Robert's brother, now a distinguished-looking man in his 50s wearing a Navy captain's uniform. "Master Chief," Captain Hayes called out, his voice breaking with emotion. Frank stared in disbelief. "Jimmy? Little Jimmy Hayes?" The two men embraced in the middle of the Walmart parking lot while cameras captured every moment. Nearly 40 years of separation melted away in that hug. "I've been looking for you for decades," Captain Hayes said through tears. "When Robert called and said he found you, I was in a meeting at the Pentagon. I walked out and got on the first plane to get here." Admiral Nelson approached with military bearing but genuine warmth. "Master Chief Morrison, I flew here personally because what happened today is unacceptable, but also because your story needs to be heard by every American." She handed Frank an official document. "Sir, this is your official Navy Cross citation, signed by the President this morning. The ceremony is still scheduled for Friday, but I wanted you to have this now." Frank opened the folder with trembling hands and read aloud. "For extraordinary heroism while serving aboard USS Enterprise during a catastrophic engine room fire on March 15, 1985. Master Chief Morrison repeatedly entered the burning compartment to rescue 17 sailors, refusing to evacuate until every person was accounted for. His selfless actions and total disregard for personal safety exemplify the highest traditions of naval service." The crowd, which had grown to over 200 people, erupted in applause and cheers. Captain Hayes took the microphone from the news reporter. "Ladies and gentlemen, this man didn't just save my life. He taught me what it meant to be a sailor, a leader, and a man. Everything I achieved in my military career started with the example he set that day." But Admiral Nelson had one more surprise. She pulled out her phone and placed a call on speaker. "Admiral Nelson, is Master Chief Morrison with you?" The voice was unmistakable. President Harrison himself. "Yes, Mr. President, he's right here. Master Chief Morrison, this is your Commander-in-Chief. Sir, I want to personally thank you for your service and apologize for the disgraceful treatment you received today. I've been following this story since it broke, and I want every American to know that this is how we honor our heroes." Frank, overwhelmed, could barely speak. "Mr. President, thank you, sir. Master Chief, I'm extending a personal invitation to you and Captain Hayes to join me for Thanksgiving dinner at the White House. It's the least I can do for a man who exemplifies the very best of American service." The crowd went wild. Even Tyler, who had been hiding inside the store, came out to witness this unprecedented moment. Frank looked at all the faces around him. Robert Hayes, who recognized him, Captain Hayes, whose life he saved, Admiral Nelson, who flew across the country, Sarah Chen, who defended him, and hundreds of strangers who now considered him a hero. "You know," Frank said into the microphone, his voice steady now, "I came here today feeling forgotten and invisible. But I learned something important. There are still good people in this world, and sometimes the worst moments can become the most beautiful ones." As Frank speaks these words, Tyler Jenkins steps forward from the crowd, and what he's about to say will provide the final, redemptive twist that nobody, including Frank, expects. Tyler Jenkins walked slowly through the crowd, his face red with shame and tears streaming down his cheeks. Everyone watched tensely, expecting another confrontation. But instead, Tyler stopped directly in front of Frank and did something that shocked everyone. He dropped to one knee. "Master Chief Morrison," Tyler said, his voice breaking, "I am so deeply sorry. There's no excuse for how I treated you today. None." Frank looked down at the young man with surprise and growing compassion. Tyler continued, "My grandfather was a Korean War veteran. He died when I was 12, but he used to tell me stories about men like you, real heroes who never bragged about what they did. He would be ashamed of me today." The crowd watched in silence as Tyler reached into his wallet and pulled out a faded photograph. "This is him, Sergeant Michael Jenkins, Army Infantry. He taught me to respect my elders and honor veterans, and I failed him today. I failed you." Frank helped Tyler stand up. "Son, we all make mistakes. The measure of a man isn't in his mistakes, it's in what he does after he makes them." Tyler looked at Frank with amazement. "Sir, after everything I said to you, you're still showing me kindness? That's what good men do, Tyler. They lift others up, even when those others don't deserve it." Admiral Nelson stepped forward. "Mr. Jenkins, Master Chief Morrison has just demonstrated why he's receiving the Navy Cross. True heroism isn't just about one day of bravery, it's about a lifetime of character." Tyler turned to address the crowd and cameras. Everyone needs to know, Master Chief Morrison is everything I'm not. He's honorable, kind, and forgiving. I lost my job today, and I deserved to lose it. But this man just taught me more about being a human being in 5 minutes than I learned in 19 years. Captain Hayes approached Tyler. Son, what are your plans now? I don't know, sir. I need to figure out how to be a better person. How do you feel about military service? The captain asked. The Navy has programs for young men who want to learn discipline, respect, and service to others. Tyler's eyes widened. You mean, after what I did today, you'd still consider me? Frank placed his hand on Tyler's shoulder. Son, I've seen good men come from the worst beginnings. The military taught me that every person has value and potential. If you're serious about changing, I'll personally write you a recommendation letter. The crowd burst into applause. Social media exploded again, but this time celebrating redemption and second chances. Robert Hayes stepped forward. Tyler, if you do serve your country honorably, there will always be a job waiting for you at Walmart when you complete your service. We believe in second chances too. Admiral Nelson smiled. Master Chief, you've just demonstrated why the Navy Cross exists, not just for one moment of heroism, but for a lifetime of making others better. 3 months later, the video of Tyler's redemption and Frank's forgiveness became one of the most watched feel-good stories of the year. Tyler successfully enlisted in the Navy, with Master Chief Morrison attending his graduation from boot camp. Frank's story inspired a national conversation about respecting veterans and giving young people second chances. The scholarship fund in his name grew to over $2 million, helping hundreds of military families. And every Thanksgiving since that day, Frank Morrison and Tyler Jenkins, now Seaman Jenkins, share dinner together, proving that sometimes the worst moments in our lives can become the foundation for the best ones. The video's final frame showed Frank's Navy Cross ceremony at the White House, with Tyler in dress blues standing at attention in the audience, both men having found something they didn't know they were looking for, the true meaning of honor, forgiveness, and second chances. Sometimes heroes aren't born from perfect moments, they're revealed in imperfect ones, and they create heroes in others along the way.